Hey, we've been talking about both sides do it coverage for how many years now? And literally
24.
on COVID, both sides do not do it.
Right.
It is obviously the biggest story in the world that we are as we said, this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated now. Brought to you by Fox News, Trump, Republicans, which is how we got here. You talked about a New York Times headline, in under-vaccinated Arkansas, COVID upends life all over again. You said this is just wildly irresponsible. In an article about deeply red state being deluged with COVID, no mention of how anti-vaccine crusades by Fox News and the GOP are to blame. Thank you. Just like we somehow got here, no one knows how, right?
Yeah, this is just in the ether. There's no explanation. And the article quotes person after person. Oh, this is why I'm not going to get vaccinated. Completely debunked theory. New York Times never asked, well, where are people learning this stuff? Obviously, the White House is focusing on social media and Facebook. And I'm glad Joe Biden said that Facebook is killing people, because it is.
Yes.
I just put up a piece of PressRun this morning. The Murdoch variant spreads, and that's what we're talking about, and that's what we're dealing. This is all unprecedented, but certainly we are the only country in the world that's trying to battle this pandemic while there's a deep-pocketed, homegrown political and media crusade to extend the pandemic. This is what they're facing. The Biden administration. The pandemic would be over, essentially. I mean, we're never going to get to 100%. We'd certainly be at 70. We'd be heading towards 80 by the end of the summer. But Fox News and Murdoch have decided they want to extend this pandemic. They have gone completely embraced the anti-vaxxer. It's not just, it's not just the COVID vaccine. They're against all vaccines. And it's shocking, but nobody should be surprised. We'll never know how many people Fox News got killed last year along with Trump, and we'll never know how many they're going to get infected now. When you take a step back, it is mind-boggling. It is just mind-boggling. And for the New York Times to do a front page story, red states are really suffering from COVID, and not address in every article the fact that Tucker Carlson has 3 million viewers and lies every night about an incredibly safe and efficient vaccine. That's ignoring a blockbuster story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this one, you retweeted, Arkansas state legislator made it illegal for any state or local entity, including public hospitals, to require coronavirus vaccination as a condition of education or employment until 2 years after the FDA fully licenses the shot. You just said anti-vaxxers have completely seized the GOP. And that is the story. That's the whole story.
That's the only story. And that Arkansas law also forbids schools in the fall for requiring masks for students if need be. Look, this is the same Fox News and Republican Party that in the winter was demanding that Joe Biden credit Trump for this amazing vaccine. If you go back to, December and January, virtually every Republican leader was extolling the virtues of the vaccine and how Trump did it. And, oh my gosh, he should get credit. And then they decided to make a U-turn. The mask debate is now off the table for the most part. I mean, obviously it's coming back in some places, but so many people got vaccinated. That was the Fox News go-to. Vaccines is fascism, or masks are fascism. It's totalitarianism. So that's off the table. The only thing they have left to rage at is this miraculous vaccine that has saved our economy and saved our country, and is going to eventually save the world. And again, it's shocking, but it's not surprising.
Yeah. Well, I mean, take Florida, right? Are they four times the national average? You said 1 in 4 from Florida, which had U.S. coronavirus cases, which they had 7,000 just yesterday. And you said, just leaving this Politico classic headline here, how Ron DeSantis won the pandemic. Like, in what universe did Ron DeSantis? I mean, and this is what comes of trying to force people not to even ask if people are vaccinated now, right?
Yeah. Oh, the press. Oh, remember during the winter and it was the Ron DeSantis victory tour. He won COVID. He's the next Trump. He he outsmarted everyone. Florida's not that bad, as critics said. And of course, now it is. Look, the deaths aren't what they were last winter, and they never will be, because we have this miraculous vaccine. So he'll muddle on, and he'll basically get away with it, even as Florida hits 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 cases a day. But we all know there's a lag time. The increase in deaths will come in a couple of weeks. Again, it's not going to be what we saw last December or January. So there's a chance, these Republicans who have been incredibly irresponsible can kind of ignore it.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing. I mean, sections of Missouri, Southwest Missouri, are absolutely deluged. And we had a Missouri congressman yesterday tweet out some insane thing about how Biden wants to take your guns away if he's going to take. The vaccine is a way to just take your guns away, or take away your freedom. American school children for the last century, every one of us had to be vaccinated before we could show up for kindergarten. This is not a new debate. Vaccines are not new freak science. I mean, it's just mind-boggling.
No, I'm Dr. Fauci.
Mind-boggling where this is going.
Dr. Fauci stole my act this weekend. Sorry, my headphone thing. He said the same thing I've been saying every day. If Fox News were around in the 50s, we'd still have polio. We would still have polio.
Yeah.
I mean,
of course. Well, but the caveat, we would only still have polio if there were a Democratic president while there was a polio vaccine.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you talked about Facebook. You said, I'm laughing at the media hand-wringing about it only if you slept through 2017 through 2020. You tweeted, question, how many articles, reports did you see about how and why Hillary lost Michigan? How many articles, reports have you seen about how and why Trump lost Arizona? It's just, you're right, it's the media's complicity in all of this. Goes to your great piece about the critical race theory. You said, do you know how the entire country is now panicked about critical race theory? That absurd claim was laundered in a New York Times headline this week as the newspaper tried to unpack the current manufactured outrage being fueled by conservatives in their new never-ending bid to wage culture wars. While we've got a pandemic that's still killing us, we're in another surge. And the story, as you said, that's not how the story is being covered. Instead, most news accounts fail to mention that critical race theory isn't taught in schools. Incredibly, the news coverage often looks past the gaping hole in this story and instead helps the GOP spread the madness as media failures pile up. Thank you. Right? That's the crisis, critical race theory, and not that we're in a, what is this, fourth COVID surge?
New York Times headline, why is the country panicked about critical race theory? And, most people don't even know what it is. Right. The only people who panicked are the same people who won't get the vaccine. This Venn diagram is quite clear. Look, this critical race theory. I've written it on and off for the last month. I've probably read 25 or 30 articles, reports, and watched on TV, looked at the transcript. 90% of them never mention it's not taught in American schools. 90% of the news coverage about how Republicans are trying to ban a topic from schools do not mention the fact the topic is not taught in schools.
Yeah,
I don't know how journalism gets this bad. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. That's the story. The story is they're trying to ban something that doesn't exist.
And you wrote one of the smartest things you've ever written, because it sums up almost everything we talk about. You said journalists remain overly impressed with how the GOP's been able to turn critical race theory into a big news story, while journalists themselves help turn critical race theory into a big news story. And then they're like, oh, look, you did it. You helped them do it, right?
It's amazing. Look, the press is two things. We've talked about it before. The press is just wildly impressed by Republican hardball, always is. So when the Republicans and the right-wing media are able to manufacture a crisis or a controversy, instead of poking holes, instead of debunking and deflating it and saying, look, they're trafficking lies, the Beltway press looks at it like, wow, they're really good at this. We better cover this. And B, as I've mentioned 100 times, every news cycle starts with what are Republicans angry about today. Critical race theory is a textbook example of that.
You know who gives a master class every day is Jen Psaki, right? And what we call the now combined Psaki bomb doozy dump. Dropping a doozy, whatever you'd like to call it.
Sure.
But yes, let's listen.
For how long has the administration been spying on people's Facebook profiles looking for vaccine misinformation?
Well, that was quite a loaded and inaccurate question, which I would refute.
How?
Well, Peter, first of all, as you know, we're in a regular touch with a range of media outlets. Let me finish. As we are in regular touch with social media platforms. This is publicly open information, people sharing information online, just as you are all reporting information on your news station.
Well, that was more generous than I would have been calling it Fox a news station.
Yeah.
Hey now, yo,
Saki.
get your game on, go play.
But it's not just Fox. You're right. It's just the way even the New York Times, wherever, right, frames questions from, as you always say, Eric, a Republican talking point of view, right?
That spying is just ridiculous. I guess I'm spying on all my friends on Facebook when I look at their birthday updates and see their vacation photos. I mean, it's and to my point, I've talked about this before. Fox News should not be in that briefing room. Ducey should not be in that briefing room. I wrote a column before Biden was inaugurated saying, please, please, please do not give Fox News a press pass. I like how she handles it. Yeah. But I really wish.
But you're right. It's still out there. He still gets it out there in the bloodstream.
He still gets it out there. And people say, oh, Fox News is in the White House. They're a legitimate news source.
Exactly. One more, Jen Psaki, to clear our palate.
We raise for them in our direct channels, of which every administration has always had, with every social media platform, that we are seeing this trend. It's troubling. That information's inaccurate.
But specifically, so you're not going after, you're saying these are general areas of misinformation that you should take a look at, not specific posts.
Yes, it is also publicly available who the individuals are who have spread most of the information. Wasn't publicly available by the United States government.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, as you said on Twitter, Eric, I love this fight. That the president is talking about Facebook, because it is life and death, Eric. This isn't some little thing we're squabbling over. This is killing people, this kind of dangerous misinformation. Yeah,
and the research and the presentation the White House made last week about how the 12 worst voices are spreading the vast majority of this vaccine misinformation. It was very telling. And I think it hit home, and Facebook does what it always does, plays the victim, tries to change the topic. Oh, why is everyone picking on us? They never acknowledge their faults. We've seen endless reports about how Facebook knows whether it's right-wing insurrectionism, anti-vaxxer stuff. They know the problem, and they just do not want to deal with it. They're terrified of the Republican Party, even though Trump's not in power and Republicans don't run the Senate. They're just completely terrified. Yeah. And so they bend over backwards.
Yep, absolutely. Eric, great stuff this week. Life-saving, not just great, life-saving stuff from Eric Boehlert at PressRun. Got to subscribe. Thanks so much, Eric.